Hello, and we're going to talk about what I think crypto eventually is going to look in the USA. There's a lot of theories going around, and the SEC is attacking people, the CFTC and the DOJ are attacking people, and people are very, very let's just say, worried about the future of crypto in the United States. I think these agencies are doing it the wrong way, but I do not think the end result is crypto leaving the United States. The United States is way too big of a market for these companies to leave, and they're not going to kick crypto out. The SEC is just trying to get as much money as possible and establish as much jurisdiction as possible, but if you haven't been noticing, they've been losing all their cases against any defendant that actually has money to defend themselves, and they're about to lose some really big ones. So the thing is, the DOJ and the CFTC have been scoring victories, but they've been mainly targeting companies that are not based in the United States, i.e. Binance and now Bybit. I do think Tron could actually, and Justin Sun could actually be one of their next targets. And I think Tron is kind of an easy target for them right now because we know that most of the TVL for Tron does actually come from Justin Sun. They were thinking about targeting USDT, but right now, since USDT has actually bought a lot of US treasuries for their reserves, they might have to think twice before going against USDT because they don't really want to do anything bad that has to do with US treasuries. That being said, however, I do actually believe that they will continue to go after companies that are not based in the US. The companies that are based in the US, it looks like only the SEC is going after them and they're not having much luck. The other more scarier agencies are going for the companies that are not in the United States. So right now, what I think is going to happen in a couple of years is that the company that's not based in the United States, they're going to just completely kick out. I think one of the reasons they went after Binance so hard is because is for like a warning shot across the brow to other industry people or other companies that are not based in the United States that want to run exchanges, telling them to stay the hell out because we're going to do to you what we did to Binance. Not necessarily that CZ did anything really wrong because they didn't really accuse him of fraud or he didn't really lose anyone money because, like Binance has the reserves. I mean, they've tried to redeem Binance out multiple times. It's never worked. Unlike, like FTX, which they collapsed as soon as Binance said, we're going to try to redeem. Like they've tried to redeem Binance out for tens of billions of dollars before, and they've always kind of failed at that because Binance has always had the reserves. And like on-chain analysis from third parties have actually confirmed that Binance has 100% reserves. So it's not like Binance lost anyone's money. It was more that like with the KYC AML thing that they got CZ on. And obviously the US is going to be very, very picky about that because they want their tax dollars when you make money for crypto. And Binance has always kind of tried to skirt around that. One of Binance's big draws has been that they're very kind of lenient on KYC AML, and that's what they really hit him on. It wasn't really because of like fraud or anything. It really wasn't because CZ lost their customers' money. It is because he didn't do enough KYC AML, and because the measures weren't in place, there might have been some terrorist financing or like money going to places the U.S. government doesn't want money to go to. It's more about control for Binance than anything else. And having Binance around, being so big, does not allow the U.S. to really try to control crypto and to corral it. And that's why they wanted Binance to get out of the way. In my opinion, they went after Binance just to get it out of the way for other players like BlackRock and Fidelity to dominate the market in the United States, and Coinbase and Kraken and Gemini as well to dominate the space in the United States without a foreign competitor. Because with a foreign competitor, they can't control it nearly as well. They can't check the money flows, and they might not be as cooperative with the United States government as a domestic company. A domestic company, if it wants to operate on U.S. soil, if the CEOs want to stay out of jail, they will have to cooperate with the United States. So the United States has like transparent information on anyone that signs up for crypto. So the future of crypto in the United States is U.S. companies and maybe like branches of foreign companies like Binance.us in the United States where the government has full control. Everything will be KYC AML. Now, I think the gray market in the US for crypto is going to grow rather large because there's a lot of people that are going to resist that and they're going to go after DEXs and they're going to use VPNs to go for DEXs. Now, the US is not like China. The government doesn't have the same kind of power that the CCP does over there. So they can't just ban VPNs. That would never actually fly in the United States. And I think several state governors would actually defy that if they made that a rule. Plus, I don't think they would actually ever pass that in Congress anyways. So I don't think that's really going to fly in the US. So since they're not going to ban VPNs, they're probably going to enhance tracking on people that try to use VPNs, and they're going to enhance tracking on like exchanges and banks. So like they're going to try to snip off any kind of off ramp that a DEX does. DEX has coming in the United States. So like, banks are going to be put on high alert for like, transfers from crypto. They're going to try to like shut down things like Tornado Cash and mixers so they can track the chain of custody from like a centralized exchange to a DEX to a bank or something. So you can't get away with money laundering or tax evasion, unless you're a politician, of course. I guess then it's possible because, like we know that like politicians are some of the worst offenders in terms of money laundering and tax evasion, as they've proven to be so. But normal people like us, if you want to do like non-KYC AML, it's going to be harder and harder. Now, for me, that doesn't bother me personally because I actually report everything. Like I pay all my taxes that I'm supposed to the best of my ability. Some of the crypto, I think some of the crypto regulations are really, really hard to follow. And I think that's actually kind of on purpose to discourage people from investing in crypto. They do actually need to change the rules where like you pay basically when you cash out into USD, especially if they're going to have these really strict rules in place. Because the really strict rules basically mean you don't really have an off-ramp outside of USD, and you're going to be very restricted in what you can actually trade. So it's going to be very hard to hide your transactions. So the thing is, like, I think like once they get the transactions like confined enough within the United States, they might change the rule where it's like easier for people to follow tax laws. Because like I've said before, if you make tax laws easy, people are more likely to follow them. If they made staking easier where you only pay the tax on cash out, people are much, much more likely to follow them than like paying it every time you get a stake. Because some of these protocols, you get staking rewards every 5 seconds, and it's impossible to keep like direct like minute value on those coins to actually pay the correct amount of taxes. Most people if they pay taxes like I do, take an estimate at the end of the year, and the estimate's generally pretty good. Like, especially if we sell the staking rewards and we cash in, we'll definitely like pay taxes on that. But like trying to keep track like every 5 seconds is near impossible. I do the best of my ability, but no one can really be 100% on that, even with like a tax tracker for crypto. So the thing is, like, I do believe like the future of crypto in the United States is going to be is going to be somewhat restricted. You still will be able to buy and sell the most popular coins. I think coin listings will have to be checked out with the CFTC or like the SEC and stuff. So like there's going to be a limited amount of coins available in the United States, although it's probably still going to be in the dozens or the hundreds to keep most people happy. ETFs will be there, and in the United States, like I do think companies like BlackRock, Fidelity, and these big funds will dominate a lot of it. They obviously will use the ETFs and other vehicles to actually manipulate these assets like they do with precious metals and other assets. So in the United States and around the world, I do think it's going to be somewhat controlled by these big players. But remember, crypto started off like 10 years ago, and a lot of the big holders aren't really selling, so they're never going to have quite the manipulative power they have over cash. But that doesn't mean that crypto will be less manipulated than cash, because the big holders from a long time ago, they're willing to manipulate just as much as BlackRock or Fidelity, and they have the power to do so. So crypto will be very much manipulated. It's just going to be manipulated by a different group of people. And the distribution of wealth in crypto isn't any better than fiat. So you're going to have a couple of new overlords, but you will still have overlords. Unless you are one of the big players or you're one of the really early players, you're not going to be one of those overlords. But there is a chance that's like slightly less regulated within the United States that you can actually make money. It's still going to be less controlled than the stock market just by the nature of crypto. And the US government's going to have a very, very hard time dealing with DEXs, because technically they can get the DEX out of the United States, but people will actually use VPNs to use DEXs. And I think like in the future, it's going to be a fight between like tracking devices and VPNs. And since they can't ban VPNs, they're going to track like all the ins and outs. So they're going to have like a lot of eyes looking at like crypto transactions on blockchains, to US addresses, to cash out addresses, and money transfers coming to the United States. So the thing is, like, I think financial transactions, especially regarding crypto, will be much more supervised in the future, but we will have a market where we can buy and trade. And since it's going to be influenced by the rest of the world as well, I still think it's always going to be more volatile, and it's never going to be quite as compliant with regulations as stock market and other assets. So it's still going to be a little bit of a Wild West, but with a lot of sheriffs watching you. So there's still going to be these pump and dumps. You're still going to have like bull markets and bear markets. It's still going to be more volatile, and it's going to attract a lot of the more risky traders. I don't think that's going to ever go away, but it's going to be a little bit more controlled than we are now, especially in the United States. But it's not going to be completely controlled because you have actors outside the United States, and the market's affected by the entire world, and it can't really be regulated no matter how many regulations you put in. And other countries are going to not agree with the United States. Now, about the CBDC stuff, I don't think CBDCs are really going to fly in the United States. They're having a hard time flying in Europe as well. Even in China, where the government has a lot of power to make people try to use these CBDCs, it's hard to get it to find traction because people just don't really demand it. Not really so much because of government surveillance. It's a little bit because of that, but mainly just because there's no real need for it. They have WeChat Pay. And in the United States, we have like Zelle, Venmo, and all this stuff. So people aren't really going to be demanding a new way of instant transactions because we already have those things built into the United States. And there's a lot of states in the US that are actually against CBDCs. So it's not going to fly. And if it does fly, it's going to take forever to actually fly. So to me, the CBDC threat isn't really that much of a threat at all. And it's going to be like 10, 15 years before it even comes into realization, if it ever comes into realization. So like the whole CBDC-based world, it's going to take like not just a few years, it's probably going to take a decade, 2 decades, if it ever comes to realization, and not the entire world is going to actually adopt it. But in the US, it's going to be kind of like an investment market. It's going to be more controlled, but it's still going to be less controlled than the stock market, and you're going to see a lot of the same players, and there's going to be really strong crypto lobbies in Congress. So like we'll keep the SEC and the other agencies at bay via the campaign money as well, because crypto is going to be a power player in the future in Washington, D.C. So that's how I see the future of crypto in the United States. Like and subscribe. Tell me what you think. Hit that bell notifications button, and I will see you guys in the next video.